And it's a very good afternoon to the Gelding. Good afternoon, Gelding, because we're recording this the day before because you've got an engagement at Caulfield tomorrow, which will make you unavailable to do the show as we normally do it in the morning.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, listeners. Yes, we're taping on a Friday, as I'll be heading off to Caulfield tomorrow, Professor, and you set me a bit of a task. I've got to get there pretty early. Some of your tips are in the very early races, and of course, I'm sure you'll fill the listeners in on an interest we may have in the early part of the day in race 2 at Caulfield.
Well, I'm not feeling too badly about it, Gelding, because you had to be there early anyway.
No, but have a bit of running around to do in the morning, Professor. So thank you for being able to do the show today.
All right, Gelding. Well, races are at Caulfield. It's a 10-race card, the first at 12:15 and the last at 5:45 p.m. The feature race, Gelding, our horse isn't in that one, but maybe one day, race 8, the Caulfield Guineas, a Group 1 worth $3 million. Just to be able to think about that is wonderful, isn't it, Gelding?
Oh, Professor, how would you be if you had a runner in a $3 million race? Nervous or happy?
Yes.
Happy.
Happy and nervous.
Maybe the Melbourne Racing Club was listening to the soapbox last week, Professor. All 3 Group 1s, 2 of them are worth $1 million and one's worth $3 million.
That's the way it should be, Gelding. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, but I do like New South Wales Racing, Professor. They have a Group 2 up there tomorrow. It's worth $2 million, and then they have a race that's a 3-year-old up quality race, not even a group race, and it's worth $1.5 million. So,
well, that's definitely a quality race if it's worth $1.5 million, Gelding.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Anyway, Professor, look, it's good to see that all Group 1 races are worth $1 million plus at Caulfield tomorrow.
Yes. The tracks are good for at the moment, Gelding. The rail's in the true position, which we like. What are your 2 best bets for tomorrow's meeting?
Professor, just on that, look, good for true position. That normally at Caulfield means good to be on pace or leading or roundabouts there. So hopefully we can do that. But, Professor, I'd like to say that I'm a bit worried. I'll just put one condition on these things. Sometimes the Melbourne Racing Club can overreact and overwater sometimes when it hasn't been raining. So look at the early races to see whether the inside is the place to be or whether it's not to be. But, Professor, that doesn't help us with being in the early races. But my tips, look, Professor, I'm going just the bleeding obvious tomorrow at Caulfield in the 2 Group 1s, the Might and Power and the Caulfield Guineas. The 2 favourites, look, both odds on, but, Professor, a nice little all-up bet I would recommend to our listeners. And with your tips, of course, I'll be taking the 4-horse parlay, Professor. So my 2 are race 7, number 1, Mr. Brightside, in the Might and Power 2,000 metres. Any horse that is beaten the short half head in a Cox Plate over 2,000 metres should be able to account for this field, Professor. He's an absolute champion. And again, another horse we've been on, Professor, in the last couple of weeks has been broadsiding in the Caulfield Guineas, race 8, number 1. The Royal Beak Godolphin field, McDonald down to ride. This horse is going for its 6th win in a row. Won first up, we're on a, Professor. So let's stay aboard for the ride now. Look, they're both odds on, but as I said, maybe a nice little all up and then parlay it with some of our other tips, Professor.
Can I expect a text from the Sydney Colt about our selections?
Well, we haven't heard much from the Sydney Colt, for a while and things like that. And he may say they're safe, but Professor, as we've always said on this show, we're about tipping winners here. And if you have a look, if you've been following Mr. Brightside and Broadsiding, you're certainly not missing out on winners.
Yeah.
And is the Colt a Colt anymore?
Oh, yeah, he's still a Colt. He's always a Sydney Colt.
You sure?
Yes.
Oh.
All right, Gelding.
And you like Professor?
Yeah, Gelding. I'm going early, as you've just already pointed out. Race 1, the Sheen Panel Service Handicap. It's a 3-year-old race and above, benchmark 80 over 1,700 metres. In this race, Gelding, I like horse number 8, Sabin, coming out of barrier 1. It's had 7 starts for 2 wins and 2 placings, so a 29% win rate, 57% place rate. It's a Seamus Award Gelding, Gelding.
Yes. A half schnitzel?
Yeah, and everybody wants a half schnitzel. We wanted a half schnitzel.
You've got a half schnitzel, haven't you, Professor?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
It won first up last start, Gelding, at Flemington. It was 4th in the Group 1 Queensland Derby in June. Distance and the track both suited. It's won at the track. Luke Nolan's aboard. It's got our trainer training at Gelding, so we'll have to give it top marks.
Yes, we certainly will, Professor. I like your tip in this this horse, racing over 1,700. Look, again, a bit of a get-back horse, comes from midfield, so let's hope the track allows some of these horses to run on, Professor.
And let's hope we don't get one pair too far back.
Yes, well, exactly.
All right, the second selection, Gelding, race 3, the Northwood Plume Stakes for 4-year-old and above, Group 3 for mares over 1,200 metres. So look in this one, Gelding, horse number 6, A Little Deep, coming out of barrier 2. An excellent record, 10 starts for 5 wins and 4 placings. So only been out of the money once. 50% win rate, 90% place rate, Gelding. And when we're going through those filters that you always talk about, we're always very happy to see a horse that likes to run it, either win or be in the placings.
Professor, when you got a win rate of 50% and a place rating of 80% or 90%, you're doing all right, aren't you, Professor?
Yeah.
And 380,000 in the bank already. You know you're going to get a run for your money, Professor. So I do like both your tips, and they're both round about the 350 mark, Professor. May get round about the $4. So I like them.
Good each way, Gelding. Yeah.
Yeah, and which will be very good for our parlay tomorrow, Professor, with my 2 shorties.
Yeah. Little Deep's won 2 out of its last 3, Gelding, including a second in the last start. It's won over the track, at the track over the same distance. The sectionals in its 2 victories were very, very good, Gelding. Mark Zara's in the saddle. He's in career form at the moment with 16% win rate over his last 50. Kieran Maher's got 16% over his last 50 for a win rate too. So the combination of Mark Zara, a senior jockey, and Kieran Maher, a very, very, very good trainer, and one of our former trainers, Gelding, I think will bring that horse home.
Yes, and both leading the trainers and jockeys premierships at the moment, Professor.
Yep. So my 2, Gelding, race 1, horse 8, Sabin, race 3, horse 6, A Little Deep. Now we turn to the Professor's Parlay, which is doing very well selecting the horse leg, Gelding, and hats off to you there. The NFL's been letting us down with some rather, I would call, quirky results.
With you completely, Professor. Don't lose your confidence. Some very, very odd results. And as you rightly pointed off, they're still trying to figure out how the 49ers lost the game. And they've proven the form right by coming out and winning this week. So, Professor, I like it when you're tipping in the NFL. A lot more. I have a lot more confidence than with the EPL.
All right, Gelding.
Keep on going, and hopefully we can get the horse league up this week, and you can bag a couple of winners in the NFL.
Well, fingers crossed with that one, Gelding. So The agreed bet of the day, Gelding, is race 8, horse 1, Broadsiding, with the win rate it's got McDonald and
Waller. Sorry, Cummings.
Yeah, McDonald and Cummings. I think that's a great combination. So that's our anchor leg, Gelding. I reckon that's the one certainty for tomorrow. That one, and we'll parlay that into the Houston Texans playing away, but they're playing the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots having a terrible season. They've only won once out of 5 starts, Gelding. They're 14th in the AFC. Their offense, they're rated 31st out of 32 teams in the NFL for being able to score. So,
yeah, well,
yeah, they're averaging scoring 6 points a game, Gelding.
Hopefully, Professor. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I've got faith.
Yeah, the line's 6.5, Gelding, so it's just below a converted touchdown. And we'll parlay that into the Philadelphia Eagles, who are playing at home. They're 10th in the NFC. They've won 2 from 4, so a 50% win rate, to beat the Cleveland Browns, who are 13th in the AFC. Only won once, Gelding. The line's 9.5, so it's almost a converted touchdown and a field goal. So I'll take that any day. The win parlay currently showing 5-2. The place parlay showing 2-1.
Lovely. Beautiful, Professor. Any other news for tomorrow's racing at Caulfield? You want to fill the listeners in?
Oh, only it costs $150 to get a guest into the members, Gelding, and I balked at that. Strangely, I balked at it.
You balked at it. You have an interest going around tomorrow, Professor, do you?
Well, if we looked in race 2, Gelding.
Yes.
And let's give the people a clue. It's a Seamus Award horse.
Yes.
Yes. You see where I'm going with this? Maybe horse number 9.
It's not number 1, not number 2, not number 3.
Might be number 9.
Oh, there's another Seamus Award, number 5.
Ah, yes, not as good as our horse, though, Gelding.
Beautiful, Professor.
With trained by Peter Moody and Kath Coleman, and trained at the Pakenham Racecourse, and the jockey's Luke Curry, Gelding, not Luke Nolan.
No, Luke Nolan's taken the other Moody Coleman horse, Mem's Choice. Luke Curry hops aboard Savvy Rocker. Look, a very tough race to resume in, Professor. The top 4 horses have got, one's placed in a Blue Diamond. Others have won Group 2 races as 2-year-olds. So, it's certainly a good race. But look, we're at pretty good odds, Professor. Look, you can get 30s today. And maybe a sneaky chance for the each way, Professor, do you think?
I think it's a good each way bet, Gelding. It's currently showing $31 and $7 the place. So you could load up on the place and be quite comfortable.
Yes, and I might do a little parlay myself on it for winning the place with Mr. Brightside and Broadsiding, Professor, just to add a bit of value to them.
A little bit of spice, Gelding.
Well, all of a sudden, if one gets up and it's $6 a place, Professor, your multiplier certainly helps that. And if it did happen to win at $30, Professor, you don't need a whole lot on them.
No, you do not, Gelding. That's quite right. And as they say, Gelding, you've got to be actually in the race to win it.
Exactly, Professor. So let's hope.
Fingers crossed on that one, Gelding. All right, well, on this special edition of That's Racing, we wish the punters all the best for today's when they're watching it, but the Guineas at Caulfield, and good luck in the punting with you, Gelding. And until next Saturday,
Caulfield
That's
Cup
Racing.
Day.
Sorry?
Yes. Caulfield Cup Day.
Yeah, Caulfield Cup Day. It's good luck.
And good punting.